What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Z Money. Let's talk about the playoffs. We're going into the conference finals. This will be the last Zachetology. But as folks have said, the playoffs basically started today with a little teaser taste of the Sonics Nuggets, which honestly disappointed. We'll talk about it in a sec. All right, we'll start with the East. The Nets beat the Hawks. It looked bad, and I think you could attribute maybe a little of this to the fact that the Nets are a defensive team. But also, I think this is kind of my take. I think I said this in the very first round Zachetology. I just hate this Nets offense outside of Olin for playoff level basketball. I've always felt like Omer Rosenberg and Benedict Mathurin, who were like the second and third leading scorers on the team, if I'm not mistaken, were just pub stompers. They don't really have quality offense when there's real people. So we saw that in full effect against the Hawks, where basically in like 3 games, the Nets basically were unable to score with any efficiency. They lost 2 of them, and then there was one where they still won because I don't love the Hawks as a team either. So some signs of weakness from the Nets. Pacers absolutely annihilate the Heat. How much of it is the Heat were just bad the whole time versus the Pacers are great? I don't really know. The East is just like, I fucking hated the Wizards, who the Heat roasted. I thought the Heat had some interesting players, but we hadn't seen them proven. And then, obviously, I like the Pacers. I've been calling them the number 2 all year. The big takeaway for me is that Cantor Bakwa was greater than Arthas and American. American really sucked. Arthas was, like, maybe acceptable. But the problem with Arthas and American is like the defense isn't there. And I say acceptable from a scoring perspective. So they lose. And it's like the Pacers have these guys where it's like Shane Sullivan to some extent, and even more so Joe Sandberg and Richard Pollard is just like, you got to be able to overcome the 3 ball because you can't stop it. So you need the offense to overcome it. And the Heat just did not have that. A couple big games from Tezuka, but those always seem to be littered by turnovers or other issues. So the Heat just feel like an incomplete squad. Reznikov, if I'm not mistaken, was actually just dog shit and might have hurt them quite badly. I'm going to go look up his stats really quickly because I remember thinking about it earlier that he was awful. Reznikov was actually okay, although it's hard to know how much of his stats were padded by round 1. But in any case, Pacers cruise. So now we get the 1-2 matchup, Pacers-Nets. I think this could be interesting. I'm prepared to be extremely let down because the Nets have just made a habit of crushing everyone in the East. But I said in the first Zachetology, this is my least favorite Nets team in like 3 seasons. I still stand by that. I just think they have no offense. And then the Pacers have the super well-rounded team. They're buoyed by the fact that the 3 great three-point shooters. We all know three-point shooting, basically impossible to stop. They have fantastic paint defense. So the matchup here is like, well, the way the Nets want to get their points is mostly by way of inside, right? Olin Harris wants to generally go inside. Omer Rosenberg definitely wants to go inside. And Benedict Mathurin wants to also, for a guard, he's a pretty big inside shooting guard. He's one of those like 50% inside shots guys. So on the whole, you're expecting the Nets to like be an inside-powered offense. Like, yes, there's Montre Johnson and a little bit of Mathurin and a little bit of Olin who will take threes, but it's not like a high-quality three-point shooting team. And the Pacers have Cantor Bakwa, who I still stand by as like the premier paint defender. And so they're going to have to go through him. Now, what's tricky is that unlike teams like maybe the Sonics or the Nuggets or the Jazz, where it's like the inside shots are coming very clearly from the big men, the Nets are an inside-focused team, but the points are potentially coming from every position except center. Olin, he's playing any position but center. Maybe he's power forward. Omer Rosenberg, small forward or power forward, unclear which. Benedict Mathurin, he's playing guard, maybe small forward. So the question just becomes like, Cantor's amazing. How relevant will he be? And the thing that's kind of tricky for the Pacers is they don't have a requisite or I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but they don't have a power forward who also plays defense to go along with the center. And so it's like, how much does that become a problem? So to elaborate on that a little more, I think the big The Nets matchup that I would do if I'm trying to win this is I think I'm probably going Olin at power forward because the Pacers, while they have a great starting five, they don't have a ton of depth, and especially at center/power forward, they have awful depth, and so you're basically guaranteed to get Henry Percy at power forward the whole game. And the thing is like Olin can, if anybody's going to shut Percy down, who's a super high volume guy, it's going to be Olin. And Percy just doesn't play defense, and obviously Olin will get his. So the risk you run is that like Cantor Bakwa gets to play a bunch of defense on Olin and shut him down. But the flip side advantage is that like you get to take their highest volume scorer, or maybe I don't know, he's up there with Sullivan, and shut him down with your best player and potentially get hella efficient points. So that's what I'm thinking you do if you're the Nets. If you're the Pacers, again, this is where your depth comes to bite you. You really just don't have a lot of options. I've looked at the backup players for the Pacers, and really the only other person is Elisha Berry, and maybe you could go and start Elisha Berry as kind of this like, and I think Kyle did this during the season as kind of like this low usage, like, you know, burn some time against the starters before you put in Henry Percy for a long ass time. Like, yes, you can do that. But, I mean, it sucks. Elisha Berry, in his own right, is not exactly a super inspiring player. Yeah, he has a fun passer thing, but he's just, like, he's tiny. He's only 6'8". His athleticism is mid, while you have the athletic god Olin you're up against. I don't know. There's no good answers. So that's going to be the sore thumb that will be tough for the Pacers. But when you take away the Olin matchup, which is problematic for basically every team in the league, I actually like the Pacers odds a lot. It's a shame they have to go, what am I saying? It's a shame they have to go away, not have home court. It's a super uphill battle. But I think matchup-wise, this could be really interesting. From the Nets, like I said, I just went over the Olin thing. The other big thing is just, like, get Randall McClellan back at point guard. He's probably your best bet at stopping or providing some fight against Shane Sullivan. Richard Pollard and Joe Sandberg, you just live with what they're going to do. I mean, 6'8", 6'6", tall, three-point shooters, like, don't waste your time trying to stop them because it's just not worth it. Richard Pollard is just, like, not as good of a shooter, so you kind of just hope he shoots himself out of the game. Joe Sandberg, like, come on, we know at this point, why even waste your time? Just, like, put some dog shit on him. He's going to limit himself, and you just hope he limits himself because he's basically unstoppable otherwise. All that being said, I really want to pick the Pacers to win this. The more I think about it, the more I like the Pacers. But the Nets, it's just the Olin effect. I'm going to pick this to go 7. I think this will be mad interesting. I think this might be getting sold short by a lot of people that the Nets will roll. I think the Pacers lose in 7 in a spicy one. Okay, out west. So the Sonics kind of manhandled the Nuggets. It was a little bit of a weird one. There was an OT game. The Nuggets won like a 3-point victory. Then the Sonics kind of cruised in the other 3 dubs. And it was like a close blowout series. I don't know how to describe it. Like, the Sonics kind of categorically seemed to beat the Nuggets. The one game they won took a pretty unreasonable effort from just the entire team of the Nuggets. They had to shoot like 55% from 3 to get that dub. I thought this was going to be a lot closer. I like the Nuggets. I think the thing we learned about the Nuggets is we better hope Lester McQuaid. Well, I guess Evan would hope, and everybody who's not Evan is going to hope not, that Lester McQuaid has more growth in him. Because where he's landed right now is like, he's super good, but he's definitely stoppable. You could probably make the argument that Seth Charles got the better of him, or they played to a standstill. He definitely didn't take over the game. I think he had maybe 1 game or 2 games where he really took over, but he also had a couple stinkers, like, didn't look overpowering. The Sonics do have a good front court, but, like, he's stoppable. Skeeter Jones had a pretty crazy series, but we saw the depth of the Nuggets kind of be a problem. It's like, Arya got, like, when you have Skeeter, Arya, and Lester, if even one of them has a bad game, it all kind of falls apart. Meanwhile, the Sonics continue to be, like, a little understated model of consistency. Seth Charles made a little bit of a statement, maybe, as being, like, a top center. But the thing about the Sonics is just, like, that old guard of the championship team that's still hanging around, Ney, Wilt, Augusto. I mean, they get to be basically, Ney did start in this series, but they get to be the bench for this team, and it's just disgusting. I mean, all these people that just are putting up 60-plus true shooting generally from 3, from the inside. I mean, the depth of the Sonics and just like their end-to-end quality of players and their fit just continues to reign supreme. And then the Jazz smoke the Rockets. The Jazz, in my opinion, are the clear number one favorite to win the championship right now. We'll talk about the Sonics matchup. I think while the Sonics have a statistical chance that is non-trivial, the Jazz are just going to be favored against everybody. Rycourt is a god, and it's not like it's just Rycourt. For the rest of the team, I still like the Jazz favorably the way I like a Sonics team in terms of having just like a really well filled out end-to-end great roster. For the specific matchups for the Jazz versus the Sonics, I think the big interesting thing is going to be fouling. So Bastian Rycourt has been basically unstoppable. He's scoring a point per minute. He's playing 35 minutes, so he's scoring 35 points a game on 70% true shooting. It's absolutely ludicrous. He's also an A-post defender, so it's not like you're giving that much up. The one interesting thing, Rycourt, in kind of this more focused playoff ball where he's scoring at a higher rate, he's playing more minutes, is averaging 4.1 fouls in 36 minutes. Of the 8 games that the Jazz have played so far, there's been 2 games where Rycourt has been pulled early, and then a third game where he fouled out, or 2 more games where he fouled out, although he did play a good run of minutes. Now, the interesting thing about that is that the Sonics have the ability to force the ball on the inside probably more than either the Rockets to some extent. Brooks Horner is a weird one, right? He's not playing. I think he's playing like small forward, but he gets the ball a lot. But the Grizz, not really forcing the ball inside at all. So the Sonics with Wilt, Seth Charles could definitely opt to, and even Ney, we'll see what happens with Ney, could opt to get a more higher volume guy on Rycourt, and then you can get fouls. And then, of course, the other foul relevant thing is Chance Roman, right? Chance Roman, although he doesn't have to play as many minutes, he's only playing 29 minutes these playoffs, is obviously a notorious foul god, and he could foul out. So I think for the Sonics, the goal is to probably get Seth Charles on Rycourt and then hope that increased volume, like having your leading scoring guy, because Charles is pretty clearly getting the most volume, to get the better of Rycourt. I still think Rycourt's a better player. I still think the Jazz are favored. As far as the guards go, I mean, the guards for both these teams are just fucking ridiculous. Randy Brown stands out as like the guy who's super good. But like, how well will he do against a Siersky or a Michael Lewis, who are just these like 6'5" AA defenders? I don't expect it to be insane. You know, Siersky and Michael Lewis, they seem to be just like mad consistent. Lewis is having a tough day from 3 on these playoffs, so maybe he's due for a breakout. Maybe he just needs to grow more. Who really knows? But yeah, I think the big play call question is just, what do the Sonics do with the front court? Can they pick correctly about whether Rycourt will get power forward or center? Do they bring Wilt in to increase the volume on the starters? Do they keep Wilt out because Wilt himself has been known to foul at times and he's not the best defender, especially compared to Jason Treble, who's a great defender? I don't know. But I think when you add it all up, when you look at the season series, Jazz won the season series 2-1. Kind of the one thing you're looking at the Nuggets, or as the Sonics, excuse me, is that you beat the Jazz in Utah, and 2 of the 3 games, well, you won 1, and then you lost another one by 3 points. So it's like, clearly you can hang with the Jazz. The Jazz's streak of sweeping the playoffs, I expect to end here. But I still like the Jazz in 6. I feel like this will probably be similar to the Jazz-Sonics matchup we saw last season. Close games, Jazz pull it out by a slim margin. Both these teams are better than last season, I think. This is kind of, the Sonics might have a little more opportunity to peak. The Jazz are a little older. It's really like the Jazz outside of Rycourt are a little more up in the air. Frederick Jones is fine, but like Randy Brown's getting old and is like probably, in my opinion, a bit of an athleticism guy. And then a lot of the weird pieces for the Jazz. Chance Roman obviously going to fall apart really quick. Jewel Hammock, who knows what the fuck will happen as he ages. He's just a weird one. I don't know. I'm getting totally sidetracked. We'll see. We may just have Jazz Sonics in the Western Conference Finals for the next like 5 years for all I know. So alas, I'm going to pick the Jazz in 6. Although I really hope I win. It's just tough when you have to deal with Rycourt. I don't know if there's anybody who can deal with it. Maybe whoever drafts Novio, if he gets a plus TC. And since I'm not going to do a final stream, as a final call, we'll get the Nets versus the Jazz. I think I'm picking the Jazz to win pretty handily. I don't know, maybe in 5. if the Pacers, I think the Sonics versus Nets is a great, awesome, true toss-up series. And then I think if the Sonics and the Pacers get against each other, I think I'm taking the Sonics in 6. Again, I think the East effect is strong. I just think the East teams are so wildly overrated, as we've seen by the East playoffs. So yeah, those are my picks. A solid season. Let's see if we can get some end-of-season drama. But yeah, we'll have to wait until tomorrow to see. Enjoy the end of the season and the off season. I'll catch you in a month. Toodles.